You go to the airport to overpay for a lukewarm Cinnabon and suffer through a TSA pat-down, not to stare into the glowing red eyes of a 32-foot demonic blue stallion that literally killed its creator. I am not joking. The horse has a confirmed body count. Welcome to Denver International Airport, or DIA, the only place in America where the 3-hour flight delays are actually less terrifying than the interior design. On the surface, the government tells you this is just a state-of-the-art transportation hub meant to connect the Midwest to the world. That is a lie. This place wasn't built for logistics. It looks like it was designed by a conspiracy theorist who won the lottery and decided to troll the entire human race. We are talking about a facility that sits on a plot of land twice the size of Manhattan, features runways that look suspiciously like a 1940s German bad guy symbol from a certain altitude, and has a dedication capstone featuring the Freemasons and the New World Airport Commission, an organization that, spoiler alert, does not exist. But the weirdest part isn't the creepy artwork or the fact that it went $2 billion over budget. It's the dirt. To build this place, they moved 110 million cubic yards of earth. That is, a third of the dirt moved to build the Panama Canal. Why do you need to move a mountain just to flatten a prairie? Unless, of course, you weren't just building an airport. You were building a roof. Let's rewind a second. Before DIA, Denver had Stapleton Airport. It was functional, it was close to downtown, and it didn't look like a shrine to the apocalypse. But in the 1980s, the city planners looked at this perfectly good airport and said, you know what this town needs? An airport 25 miles away in the middle of absolutely nowhere that costs more than the GDP of Fiji. The project was supposed to cost $1.7 billion. By the time they cut the ribbon in 1995, the price tag was $4.8 billion. For those of you bad at math, that is a $3.1 billion oopsie. If I overshot my budget by $3 billion at my job, I wouldn't just get fired, I would be hunted for sport. So, where did the money go? The official story was the automated baggage system. This was supposed to be the Tesla of luggage handling. Instead, it was the Ford Pinto. On opening day, the system immediately started launching suitcases into walls, chewing them up, and spitting out your underwear onto the tarmac. It was such a disaster they eventually just scrapped it and went back to guys named Steve throwing bags into a truck. But here is where it gets spicy. Construction workers claimed that massive multi-story buildings were constructed, deemed incorrectly positioned, and instead of demolishing them, the management just ordered them to be buried whole. You heard that right. They allegedly buried 5 massive buildings intact under the dirt. Why would you bury perfectly good concrete unless you needed a basement for something else? So, let's say you ignore the buried bunkers and just walk into the terminal to catch your flight to Cabo. You expect to see maybe a Starbucks, a Hudson News, and a few ads for watches you can't afford. Instead, you are greeted by murals that look like they were commissioned by a villain from a Captain Planet episode who decided to go full genocidal maniac. The artist, Leo Tanguma, titled his work, Children of the World Dream of Peace. A nice title for a painting that features a terrifying green soldier in a gas mask stabbing a dove with a scimitar while weeping mothers hold their dead babies in the background. Nothing settles those pre-flight jitters quite like staring at a visual representation of biological warfare and the end of human civilization while you wait for boarding group C. And it doesn't stop there. Another mural shows children of the world gathering around, not a playground, but a psychedelic plant that some people think looks suspiciously like a genetically modified New World crop. There are extinct animals in glass cases, burning forests, and kids in coffins. It's basically a how-to guide for the apocalypse, painted in bright pastels. The airport claims it's an allegory for peace triumphing over war. Sure, and the Titanic was an allegory for the importance of swim lessons. But the creepiest part isn't even the paint on the walls, it's the stone on the floor. In the Great Hall, there sits a dedication capstone that doesn't just hint at a conspiracy, it practically screams it through a megaphone. Right there in the middle of the Great Hall, which is a totally normal and not ominous name for an airport terminal, sits a dedication stone made of granite. And smack in the center? The Freemason square and compass. Because nothing says public transportation like a secret society that's been accused of running the world since the powdered wig era. It's like walking into a McDonald's and seeing the Illuminati pyramid stamped on your Big Mac wrapper. But the writing on the stone is the real kicker. It credits the construction to the New World Airport Commission. Go ahead. Pull out your phone. Google it. I'll wait. You didn't find anything, did you? That is because the New World Airport Commission does not exist. It has never existed. It sounds like a generic shell company a Bond villain sets up to pay his henchmen. Why make up a fake organization that sounds suspiciously like New World Order unless you're just screwing with us? Underneath this stone is a time capsule scheduled to be opened in 2094. Conspiracy theorists think it contains the blueprints for the bunkers or a genetically modified strain of flu. Personally, I think it's just the receipt for the $3 billion they lost. But while everyone is busy staring at the creepy rock and the fake organization name, they are ignoring the fact that the airport sits on top of a tunnel system so massive it makes the New York subway look like a hamster tube. If you've flown into DIA, you've taken the underground tram to get to your gate. It plays that weird, joyful xylophone jingle that sounds like the soundtrack to a clown's funeral. But while you're squeezed in there trying to avoid eye contact, you are speeding past one of the largest tunnel networks in the Western Hemisphere. We aren't talking about maintenance crawl spaces where a guy named Bob goes to fix a leaky pipe. We are talking about a subterranean interstate. These tunnels are massive. You can drive 2 semi-trucks side by side through them. The official explanation is that they were built for the automated baggage carts. Let's apply some blue-collar logic here. A baggage cart is the size of a golf cart. Why do you need a tunnel system big enough to move an ICBM just to transport your dirty laundry? That is like building a 6-lane suspension bridge so your cat can cross the hallway. Contractors who worked on the baggage tunnels reported seeing elevators that didn't just go down to the basement. They went down deep. We're talking sub-levels that don't appear on the blueprints. Some workers claimed there are entire buried buildings down there, with high-voltage power grids that use more electricity than the actual terminal above ground. So, you have a massive, empty underground city, fueled by enough juice to power a laser grid, sitting unused because the baggage system broke. If you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. But the real question isn't if the bunkers exist, it's about who, or what, the locals think is living in them. So, who is actually down there enjoying this windowless concrete luxury? If you ask the deep corners of Reddit, it's the reptilian. Obviously, because if you were a shape-shifting lizard overlord controlling the planet, the first place you'd want to set up your headquarters is Colorado. The theory goes that the underground base is a joint human-alien bioweapons lab, or a Galactic Federation diplomatic hub. People swear they've seen Greys working alongside construction crews. Look, if I'm an alien capable of interstellar travel, and I get assigned to the Denver basement shift to sort luggage with a guy named Gary, I am crashing my saucer into the Rockies on purpose. But let's strip away the tinfoil hat for a second and look at the boring option, which is actually way scarier. The most likely reality is that DIA is the continuity of government hub for the Western United States. Washington, D.C. is a sitting duck on the coast. Denver is a mile high, landlocked, and surrounded by mountains. If the nukes start flying, the president and the billionaires aren't staying in the White House. They are coming here. Those tunnels aren't for luggage, they're for the motorcade. Those buried buildings are barracks for the elite, while the rest of us are outside fighting over the last can of Spam. It's basically a high-end fallout shelter funded by your tax dollars, where you are definitely not on the guest list. But if it's just a boring government bunker, that doesn't explain the biological anomalies, or why pilots have reported their instruments going haywire specifically over this patch of dirt. If the murals weren't subtle enough, let's look at the floor again. Embedded in the granite are mining carts with the symbols AU and AG. Now, if you paid attention in high school chemistry, or if you just like jewelry, you know AU is gold and AG is silver. Colorado is famous for mining, so this makes sense. It's a nod to the gold rush, very wholesome, very patriotic. But the conspiracy theorists looked at that and said, nah, that's too easy. In the world of biological warfare, AUAG stands for the Australia antigen, a deadly founder of the hepatitis B virus. So, depending on how paranoid you are, The floor is either celebrating the state's rich mining history, or it is literally spelling out the name of the biological weapon they are brewing downstairs to thin the herd. It's a 50-50 toss-up. And presiding over this biological puzzle is the mascot of the apocalypse himself, Blucifer, that 32-foot demon horse I mentioned earlier. He has glowing red neon eyes. The artist said the red eyes represented the wild spirit of the American West. But the horse didn't just look evil, it acted on it. In 2006, while the sculpture was being finished, a massive chunk of fiberglass fell off the horse's torso and crushed the artist, Luis Jimenez, severing an artery in his leg. He bled out on his studio floor. The statue literally killed its creator before it was even installed. And the airport's response? Let's put it right out front! It's not a statue, it's a gargoyle guarding the gates of hell. So we have buried buildings, secret societies, deadly virus codes, and a homicidal horse. Is it all a coincidence? Or is it something else? So how did the Denver International Airport respond to decades of accusations that they are running a satanic, alien-breeding, New World Order bunker? Did they deny it? Did they release the blueprints? No. They started trolling us. A few years ago, during terminal renovations, the airport put up official construction signs featuring conspiracy theories. One sign had a picture of an alien and read, "Construction? Or are we repairing the lizard people's lair?" Another one said, "We are creating the world's greatest airport, or preparing for the end of the world. Why not both?" They even installed an animatronic gargoyle in the terminal that talks to passengers and roasts them about their conspiracy theories. It's funny, it's charming, it makes you laugh, and that is exactly what a smart government cover-up looks like. It's the ultimate gaslight. If they hide it, you get suspicious. If they joke about it, you think, oh, they're self-aware. Surely evil lizard overlords wouldn't have a sense of humor. That is exactly what a lizard overlord wants you to think. In the end, maybe there are no aliens. Maybe there is no apocalypse bunker. Maybe it really was just a case of massive government incompetence, wasteful spending, and an art director who needed therapy. But ask yourself this: if the world ends tomorrow and the mushroom clouds start rising, do you really think the politicians are going to sit on their front porch and watch? No. They are going to catch the first flight to Denver, and they definitely aren't checking a bag.